Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where today I have Marc Linster from EnterpriseDB waiting to join us. And EDB provides enterprise-class software and services that enable businesses and governments all harness the full power of Postgres, the world's leading open-source database. And as one of the leading contributors to the vibrant and fast-growing Postgres community, EDB is also committed to driving technology and innovation, but today I invited him on the podcast to provide an overview, an introduction to EDB, Postgres and open source, and take a peek inside the world of business database technology, the tectonic shift in progress from proprietary to open source software, and also what does all this mean for businesses in a whole variety of industries. And also want to explore the benefits on offer for open source database technology, for scalability, flexibility, performance benefits, to even unlocking innovation. And if we've got time, also talk about the evolving role of the CTO and the latest updates in the broader tech landscape and how C-suite executives are going to navigate them, or at least try to. So buckle up and hold on tight, because today, no matter where you're listening in the world, I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Luxembourg, where Marc Linster is waiting to join us. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
I'm Marc Linster. I'm the CTO of EnterpriseDB, the company that is probably the leading developer of Postgres, and the company working with lots of enterprises around the world to help them take advantage of what Postgres brings to the table.
Fantastic. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. But before we find out more about that, I'd love to find out more about how you got your current role. Can you share your origin story, where your passion for tech came from, or what it was that put you in this path?
I know many years ago, I started in AI and expert systems. And so I was always into data and believed that, if you have a good foundation in data, building good systems and producing good results, it becomes a lot easier. So data management has always been a passion of mine, and relational data especially, because I believe that relational calculus has some great advantages once one kind of gets it. So over the years, I've been in different roles in other product industries, and at Polycom, for example, but always worked with data. And when the opportunity came almost 10 years ago to join EnterpriseDB, I was really fascinated by Postgres, because previously to that, I'd worked with Oracle and SQL Server, worked a lot with it and liked the products. But when Ed Boyajian called me and said, "Hey, do you know about this Postgres thing?" I looked into it and said, "Wow, this is pretty cool. This can do some really, really interesting stuff in terms of multi-model and bringing the cost down and stuff." So then I said, "Hey, this is something I want to get involved with." I started running services, and then the product team, and then 3 years ago, I took on the role of the CTO.
Fantastic. And of course, that path did lead you to EDB. And you mentioned Postgres there. And for anyone outside of the industry, can you just offer an introduction to all things EDB, Postgres, and open source, just to kind of set the scene for our conversation today?
Sure. So think about EDB and Postgres the way you think about Red Hat and Linux, right? I mean, it's the way to go if you want to use Postgres in a business or in a government setting, where you want to have a good partner who gives you the right packages, the right support, the right tooling to get the most value out of Postgres. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, when you look at what's happened in the relational database space, or in the operational database space overall, we can see that adoption of Postgres is accelerating tremendously, right? When you look at the Stack Overflow developer surveys, for years, Postgres has been a dominant player. But this year, in all categories for database, so most used, most loved, most wanted, Postgres has been number one. And that's a regular survey. It's come out for years, so you can see the trend in there. So Postgres has really matured to the level where I can confidently say it has won the hearts and minds of developers. And now it's also starting to happen with IT executives because of the cost reduction and the flexibility and the very, very large talent pool that's available for Postgres. So Postgres as an operational database is really surging rapidly, and we see that all over the place.
And can I ask you to give everyone listening a bit of a peek inside the world of business database technology, and most importantly, that tectonic shift in progress from proprietary to open source software, because that's what we're seeing more and more now, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've all seen it with Linux, right? Yeah. I mean, this was 15 years ago, whatever, something like that. No, actually more. And the arguments up to a few years ago with Postgres were the same. It'll never work. We'll all get fired. It doesn't scale. And what happened is Postgres took the same path that Linux took, right? I mean, if you think back around 2000, at least I was running proprietary commercial operating systems. I was at Digital Equipment at the time. Open VMS and Unix, et cetera, they were the way to go on Windows, right? And then Linux started creeping in, first from the printer server to the file server to the departmental server. And now everything's running on Linux. I mean, yeah, Windows is still there. There's still some Unix out there, but Linux is the way to go now. Well, the same thing is happening with Postgres, or has happened with Postgres. It was something that was only used for, let's say, non-mission critical applications. And that has changed rapidly. So a couple of years ago, there were some fundamental developments in Postgres that allowed to use Postgres for mission critical applications, that made Postgres scale a lot more, made it a lot faster. And those have really brought a breakthrough in the enterprise. So now we have seen the departmental use, and that was the case for a long time. Now we're seeing more and more mission critical applications for payment service providers, credit card companies, armed forces all over the world using Postgres and working with companies like EnterpriseDB to make sure that they can use it for mission critical applications where, remember, if something goes wrong, I mean, it doesn't happen often, but when something goes wrong, you need an SLA. And I've been on the other side, and I know that if a vendor says 15 minutes, that sounds like when you sign on the dotted line, it sounds like that's a really short time. They be right away. But I tell you, when the system's down, 15 minutes is 900 seconds, and that's a really, really long time, right? So yes, this technology is really winning the hearts and minds, but you got to make sure that the right support infrastructure is also there to make sure that you can use it responsibly and know that when you commit to 5 nines of availability, you can actually do that, right? So that's our role, just like Red Hat and Linux. Think about EDB and Postgres.
And we will have people listening all over the world in businesses from multiple industries. So if we zoom out for a moment, what does this trend mean for businesses in just about every industry we can imagine?
I mean, first, everybody's talking data now, right? I mean, whether data is the new oil or whatever, right? Data is all over the place. Everybody is dealing with more and more data, right? So you need a reliable and capable infrastructure to handle that data. Postgres is great for that because it has more data modeling capabilities than most databases. It can do the traditional tables and relations, but it can also do geospatial data inside the same database. It can do JSON, so document data inside the same database. Now, you may think, hey, that's just a tech guy geeking out. But the cool thing about it is it happens in the same transactional context. So that means a backup, a recovery, a server management. My talent for development is all the same, right? For all these capabilities. So what I can now do is I can build really, really flexible systems. And think about where we're all going with digital transformation. If we're talking about customer intimacy, One of the data elements for customer intimacy is to know, where's my customer? Well, if your database can't talk GIS, geographical information, well, you don't know where your customer is, right? Yeah, you may have a street address, but you don't know how far away that is, how close they are to the next drop-off, or how long it's going to take the spare part to get to them, etc. And you want to do all of that in the database, in one database, right? So it all happens in the same place with the same talent, the same software, the same operational procedures, etc. So the agility, the innovation, and then the tremendous cost reduction that you're getting. Now, cost, some people may say, well, cost, again, don't talk about cost. That's just something that only high-level executives care about. But the really important thing is the cost reduction allows an IT executive to shift money from keeping the lights on to innovation. And I was a CIO, and I know that the biggest problem has always been do more with the budget that you have. And the only way to do that today is to shift money from the keeping the lights on side of the equation to the innovation side. So for IT executives today, database tends to be the largest software expense in their budget. If you now go open source from, let's say, Oracle or SQL Server or DB2, you can expect about an 80% cost reduction in that, right? I mean, open source still costs some money because you want a support partner, you want some tooling. So don't fool yourself that you can do it for free, because you can do it for free until you have the first problem, and then it takes way too long to recover, right? So it's not free, but it costs, our customers say about 80% less than the commercial software. So that allows you to take a tremendous amount of money and move it from, non-value add activity, just keeping the lights on, to innovation, or potentially returning it to the P&L.
And I suspect you've just awoken the curiosity of a lot of people listening, especially at a time where businesses are expected to do more with less. So can you expand on some of the benefits on offer for open source database technology? And by that, I mean everything from scalability, flexibility, and performance results to even unlocking innovation.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. Open source software, and we need to get to that topic. True open source software, right, has very permissive licensing. Permissive licensing means you can install the software wherever you want. And because you don't need to count cores and all that kind of stuff, you can also install it as much as you want, as much as you need it. So that means that if you need to install it on your laptop, on an Arduino, on a PC, on a VM, on a cloud, any cloud, you just do that. So think about the speed of innovation that you get from that. We have a customer who told me that today it takes them 53 days to provision an Oracle database. I said, why? How come? Oracle's great stuff. I used to work with it. So why does it take that long? Well, because we can't do subpartitioning. So, Oracle licenses don't work well with VMware licenses, right? We always have to order new hardware to do that. Okay, so when we need something new, right, more capacity, we have to order hardware, rack and stack, burn it in, install the operating system, etc. So yeah, 53 days, still a long time, but I understand it. But who has 53 days today if you need more capacity? If you have a successful marketing campaign and your website, goes through the roof, well, you need capacity like now. So the ability to install anywhere and to just use more without having to worry so much about licensing and which features you use, that's a core element for agility, right? Then you look at it and say, okay, how about innovation? Well, I said before that Stack Overflow is saying that developers really, really love Postgres. They love it because of the features, because of the capabilities that it has, and also because of the innovation rates. Postgres for many years have had annual releases with new features. Every year, September, October, every year, there are new features. Okay. Now, other database vendors are trying to catch up with that, right? To try to do the same thing, to be able to keep up with innovation. Okay, so and then all the capabilities to do, as I said, GIS and JSON and other data types, things that developers really, really love because it increases developer productivity. Okay, so the flexibility to deploy, the developer productivity that you get, and then something that may be a little hidden inside Postgres is because Postgres has JSON as a data store plus normal relational tables. It allows you to start unstructured and become structured. So in today's development models where we use Scrum and incremental development, right, we don't necessarily do a complete design of everything before we start. That's how I grew up. That's what we did in standard software development life cycles. You had a data model that was really fine-tuned before you started coding anything. Well, that's not how the world works today. It's incremental development. You add one feature after the other. It's one of the reasons why MongoDB, for example, is so loved by developers, because they don't need to think through the whole data model before they can start coding. They can just add more stuff in the document. Well, Postgres has the same thing. And so what that allows you to do is start unstructured, and as you uncover structure, you start using it, right? Let's say you have a postal code. Initially, maybe you just think it's a text field, so who cares? Mm-hmm. And then you learn more and you say, oh, yeah, I want to ship this product. So it better tie to the postal system's reference codes. Well, with a relational database, that's easy. It's a relation, right? If all you have is documents, well, it's really hard. You can write the code to check it, but it's not just a simple declaration. So in Postgres, the fact that we can start unstructured and become structured as structures emerge is really, really powerful. Okay. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the vibrant community. So Postgres is really a community effort. If you look at the companies that participate in Postgres, yes, EDB is big. We're not the majority. We're big. We're the biggest, but we're not the majority, and that's really important. With us are people like Microsoft, NTT, Fujitsu, VMware, Amazon, Google. So there's a whole host of companies that are participating in it. Okay, so that means you're not depending on one company for the innovation. That's one thing. And the other thing is your talent pool is huge. Right? It's not an esoteric technology that may be really interesting and has some features that you'd really like to use, but nobody in the world knows how to use it. This is a very well-used technology that's been around for 25 years. So your talent pool to actually get something done is also large, which is what you need, because if you pick a technology and then don't find anybody to actually innovate with it, well, you're stuck. Okay, so for all of these reasons, the flexibility, the developer productivity, the agility, and the talent pool, that's really why I think this is really interesting, besides the fact that it also cuts the cost by 80%.
And I'm curious, from everything that we've talked today, how do you see this impacting the evolving role of the CTO? There's big changes there too, right?
I think so. One of the things that comes with using open source is that you can drive innovation much faster, right? If you think about it, why is Python so beloved? Because there is a huge global library of stuff that you can use. Not sure, Neil, if you ever were a developer. I was. And when I was a developer, you had to write everything from scratch. And maybe you found a math library that you could use that your company had licensed, right? But otherwise, you had to write everything from scratch. Okay, so developer productivity was really low. But now, when companies embark on open source, there is so much more available for them to move fast. Complete building blocks that they can use. Just load, add to their product. Yes, check the license, check the integrity, etc., but don't write it from scratch. So innovation, because of open source, is just really, really fantastic. Not just because Postgres is a better foundation, but because there's a There's a huge knowledge base out there of people, software bits, code, etc., that you can use to get there faster.
And I'm not a developer myself, but I've seen a lot of excitement and caution around ChatGPT at the moment. Have you seen anything around that and how developers could possibly leverage that technology or where that's going? Is there anything you've seen around that?
Not really. I mean, I may be wrong, right? But I don't think that this type of AI technology will actually be used for development. I think developing things like that and putting them to use is really, really interesting, right? I mean, we see that in optimization technology, et cetera, where AI and machine learning are being used to figure out how to make things go faster or how to get to better conclusions that make more sense, right? But ChatGPT for coding, no, I don't believe it, right?
Awesome. Can you share any insights in the broader tech landscape and especially how C-suite executives will increasingly start to navigate these trends too?
I think being open to innovation, open to experimentation is really important. And again, it's something that is often forgotten that, a big difference between a commercial license and an open source approach is that when you want to build a system with a commercial license, you have to buy all the software and contract for it before you actually start really using it. Yeah, you do a conference room pilot, but it's not the real thing. So how often do you think people find out that after they signed a multi-million-dollar contract, well, maybe this is not really what we needed? I've been there, and I tell you, it is what they will use, okay? Because the money's been spent. With open source, it's different. Yes, I said before, you still need support and you should have a partner and the right tooling, etc. But you do that once you've road tested it and figured out, I mean, this coding is really, really going to work. And then we go get the right partner, we do the right high availability tooling and monitoring, etc. Right? But you can see that the fact that you can explore things is a very important vehicle for innovation. So really driving innovation by being supportive and having a good open source policy, for example, that makes it easy to bring in stuff in a secure and controlled way, but still make it easy, make it move relatively quickly so that people can try new things or developers can try new things and fail fast without saying, okay, I just spent all the budget on something that turned out to be not really what we need. Okay, so being open, being permissive, allowing that kind of approach to happen, and allowing and supporting a grassroots-driven innovation process instead of having a central center of excellency that decides everything, and then everybody else just kind of executes. Give the development resources more ability to pick and choose and pick the things that will make their project go fastest within certain controls, right? But allow more of that innovation to happen in a decentralized way.
100% with you on that. And what about yourselves? What's next for EDB? Is there anything you can share around your big focus this year?
Well, obviously, cloud. And in the cloud, we say, choices self-managed or fully managed. And we see fully managed as something that is very, very relevant to our customers, right? Because again, they want to shift more from keeping the lights on to innovation. So when you go to a fully managed solution like Postgres, managed by EDB on what we call the big animal service, when you do that, you can take your DBA who used to do backups, for example, and say, okay, Mr. DBA, you're now going to learn about data modeling and data quality and data lineage, et cetera, all things that have tremendous business value. So the same resource who kept the lights on before now moves to saying, okay, I'm going to go figure out where the value is in my data. So fully managed services are really, really becoming something very, very important. Fully managed, but managed by the experts, so you get the best get the best value out of that. So that is certainly one of our areas of focus. The other one is extreme high availability. In the past, we used to talk about software high availability being focused on compensating for hardware failures. So everybody knows about RAID drives, right? The RAID technology was invented to kind of cover up if a physical drive would fail. We had other technology that would fail over and cover power failures or power supply failures and other failures, right? Today, hardware has become so reliable that hardware failure is not really a big problem anymore. But the challenge for extreme high availability is 24/7, 365, okay? Because our businesses today don't have maintenance windows anymore. So there is no time when you can take the service down. So creating a database infrastructure that actually is running while you upgrade it, while you update it, while you do maintenance on the system, that's our new thing. So Postgres Distributed provides that capability today to give you 5 nines of availability on commodity hardware. So we don't want to walk away from agility and flexibility and low cost, right? But the ability to say, okay, I have a database service out there where I can do maintenance, upgrades, software patches, etc., without taking the whole thing down. That is becoming really, really, really more important because almost every big company today is global. Once you go global, there's no downtime anymore, right? I mean, when I started, we had batch windows. So from late Friday afternoon to Monday morning, you could do whatever you wanted. And those have completely disappeared. So now the focus on extreme high availability is the other area where we're going. So fully managed Postgres in the cloud, extreme high availability, and then we're continuing our development on native Oracle compatibility because as Postgres wins the hearts and minds of developers and IT executives, they want to take their solution from a commercial database onto something that is open source based. And so that compatibility to make that move easy so that they get the flexibility to go to the cloud or any cloud they want to, that's the third area of focus. So these 3 areas is really where we're spending our energy.
100%. That extreme high availability is such a big topic right now. Now, we did start at the podcast talking about your origin story, and we also have a tradition on this show where I like to finish by asking my guests to look back and share either a song that we can share for our Spotify playlist or a book that's important to you that we can add to our Amazon wish list. All I'm going to ask is, what are you going to leave us with and why?
my book probably that influenced me most lately was Shackleton's South.
Yeah.
That's like, anybody who is into people management, project management, keeping a team together under horribly difficult circumstances, read Ernest Shackleton's book, South, and then the other one about going to the pole before that. They're just fantastic reads about somebody who kept the team together and got something done under unbelievable circumstances. Nobody died. Nobody left behind. They all got out. It's fantastic. Also, the way he's written it.
Awesome. I'll get that added straight to the Amazon list. But before I let you go, for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about EnterpriseDB, anything we've talked about today, contact your team, etc., what's the best starting point?
Well, contact us via our website, enterprisedb.com, or, if you want to get in touch with me directly, it's marc.linster@enterprisedb.com.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast today, providing an overview of EDB, Postgres, open source, the trends that you're seeing, the benefits on offer for open source database technology, from everything from scalability, flexibility, performance benefits, and unlocking innovation, and also touching on the evolving role of the CTO and what we can expect on the broader tech landscape and how C-suite executives will try to navigate them. But more than anything, just thank you for coming on, sharing your insights and your personal origin story too. Thank you.
Very welcome.
So a big thank you to Marc for joining me on the podcast today and sharing his insights there, especially in offering a bit of an overview around Postgres and the open source community and taking a peek inside the world of business database technology. But over to you. If there's anything you would like me to demystify on this podcast, or maybe you would like to come on, or maybe you've just got a question, or just tell me where it is in the world you're listening to this podcast every day, whatever it is, email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. But other than that, it's time for me to get out of here. But I will be back tomorrow with another guest. So just a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.